balance of passion. Well, so purple is the color of integration and balance. And I've loved it always. But yesterday I was at the hairdresser and I thought, this is the day to be bold. So I put this purple streak into my hair. And then I read the spiritual reason meaning of purple, and I realized it came together for everything that I believe in, which is authentic harmony. So red is about passion and drive, and blue is all about calm and transcendence. So, and politically, red and blue are and I've always been somebody that looks at how do you harmonize, how do you bring things together. So whether it's business and life or it's men and women, different generations, different nations, it's all about how do we bring life together. So I wanted to host this session of the Global Chamber of Women's online networking about what authentic harmony might mean for you, and also start with what is it that really makes you buzz, what really makes you happy, not what you do, but what is in your heart. What is the thing that your best friend would say to you? Oh, that is absolutely you. Because often I find people not sure what that is and how to qualify that. So mine has always been about harmony and people and ideas, and how do you connect the dots between those things. So I want to ask you, all of you, what are your three elements, or one or two or three, but what are the things that really make you buzz, that you were born with, that are innate gifts? Anybody like to offer? Erica.
Similar to you, I really get so excited, just like in this room, connecting with people and coming together, no matter language, age, background, culture, any of that, just having real good, positive, happy conversations with people from all over the world. Like that to me is the most inspiring thing ever. It really just is. So I would say for connecting with people is my thing. It's just what I'm good at.
And is
It's
it what you've always done, even as a child?
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
that's the thing, is really connecting what we did as a child. So, River, what about you? What are the three elements of you that you could share from a child?
I would say the first is a sense of adventure, and that comes in many realms. That comes with travel and tackling things like hiking Kilimanjaro or running Whitewater Rapids. But it also spills over into business and taking risks that other people aren't willing to take, and doing what would classify as a five-class rapid business adventure that other people would not take on. But you just have to strap on your virtual life jacket, and you have to know that when you fall out of the boat, you always keep your feet downstream, and so they can bounce off the rocks until you get to shore and you can start again. And I would say the third one is a real sense of how to take various things and assimilate them into something that would be the food in the refrigerator for a recipe, or various things that end up being some creative project or a platform for tech or whatever. But assimilation just comes easy for me. So those are my three.
Excellent. And even as a child, you were the girl in the playground that took the risk and climbed up the thing that was dangerous. Yeah. And I think that's what's fun, is that when we understand these are things we've had all our life. I put on my thing about never underestimate the value of your life's experience. This is really important. So, Connie, what are your three? Tell us about you
Okay,
as a
right.
child.
Definitely hands down, my first one is creativity. It comes naturally. I always say I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but I feel I see things in a completely different light than many people, because I've been illustrating and painting since I was a young child. I won a few art competitions in school, and then I pursued creativity as a a career. So basically, till this day, I'm doing graphic design and all kinds of things creative. So this is my true passion. Second is, I think, like experiences. So I love traveling. I love culture, moving around, meeting different people. When I say different people, like throughout the world. So living in Dubai, I've had the blessing of being able to go to many countries, both East and West. So whether it's in Europe or going to Far East Asia, because it's a strategically located destination, so it's easy to go both ways, which I've been very happy to be able to do so. I've learned so much about culture, food, colors, and when you were speaking about color psychology, I totally resonate with that, because that's all part of what I do for a living, and that goes into branding, especially when you're creating a brand identity. So that definitely is number 2. And number 3, I think I definitely have a fighter gene in me, because as River was saying earlier about her analogy about going down the river and bouncing off the rocks, I totally get it, because I think it takes a certain personality to run a business, whether small or large.
Yes.
And with that being said, you have to be a risk taker, and B, a fighter, like never give up. I mean, you get the ghosting, and you get the, crickets, or yeah, like we're going to sign, and then last minute it goes on hold or whatever. So you have to be resilient. And then obviously what would make me happy ultimately is when you win contracts, because I don't believe in cutting corners. I love doing everything by the book and researching and getting my hands in many places in order to create something amazing, whether it's a logo design, if it's a small thing, even like a presentation or whatever. It's just being engulfed in what I do. So yeah, I think those are my 3 things for sure.
Excellent, excellent. And again, this is what you've done all your life. Your best friend would
Yes.
recognize these traits even in the playground.
Super
And this is
creative. I have a lot of
what
tattoos. I'm just being behaved and hiding them, but yes, I'm a creative person. I stand out.
because also these are things that make us energized. So excellent.
Yeah.
Linda, what about your 3?
Well, it seems like we've got a really creative crowd here. Obviously I'm creative through my photography, but it started when I was in my, 10 years old, creating a fundraiser, putting a circus in my backyard, bringing animals in, raising money for either a reason other than myself. So I always enjoyed doing that. And that kind of folded into, as I grew, first of all, the travel. That's one of the things, my big objectives this year is to do as much international travel as possible. It's been a while. I haven't had an opportunity to do that. And my bucket list is growing. But as far as bringing people together, one of the things that I enjoy most is entertaining friends. And I mean, kind of big production dinners, and I bring in entertainment into my home. One time I brought in a little mini circus of animals, okay, and had a whole themed dinner around that with, lamb's tongue salads and all that. So it's those 2 things, and the creativity comes through through meals. Now, I heard about throwing things together. One of the things people are really always amazed at is I don't have to have a food plan. I have enough available all the times that I can make a really good meal. Whereas a lot of people, they have to go shopping and look through,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, my best meals are the ones that come out of my refrigerator and cabinet. I'm not a recipe follower. I don't do real well with that. That's why I don't bake either. So that kind of folds all 3 of mine in there: entertaining, creativity, art, and travel, and food, and parties.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we've got, as we said, we've got lots of creative and a lot of people breaking the rules. This is very interesting. So Nima, can you share with us your 3? What makes you who you are? Nima, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So, wow, listening to you all now, I'm speechless. So for me, one would be compassionate. Since I was young, being compassionate with others and being considerate for their growth. I remember even in my in my early 20s, I've been always, taking care of my friends, coming home, and, all those who are going through whatever they're going through, I'm the one stop. They will all run to me. So that one thing. And another thing I would say is networking, and also having this, bringing people together. I have that trait, and I've been told a lot of times, and I see it. It's my passion. And also a visionary will be my third, that I could see opportunities where others could not see it or never thought of. So yeah, I'll give those three. Thank you.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And knowing you a little bit myself, I can feel those three. That's really lovely.
Thank you. Yeah.
And Martha Pello, Sean, are you with us? Hello.
Hi everyone. I'm just gonna show up a little bit, then I'm gonna hide because I feel like I'm not appropriate. I just jumped into this. Okay. For me, I'll say curiosity. No? I think even from a young age, I have pictures of me my mother would take pictures of me always being curious about something. So even when I saw this online, I thought, okay, I think I saw chamber. And I quickly wrote it down, like the Global Women Online Networking. I was like, okay, let me check it out. But it doesn't mean I'm always equipped for what I'm checking out. So I was curious. I saw it and I thought, cool, let me check it out. I don't know what it's about, but let me check it out. And I obviously logged in late because I can see here the subject says the power of authentic harmony, which I was like, boom, it hit me because I was posting my monthly blog and I didn't want to acknowledge what authenticity. I felt I was writing about entrepreneurship and it felt like it was challenging. I was trying to talk about it, but at the same time, I felt like it was challenging me because I'm going through transition. So, like career transition. So, I am a very curious person. I like learning. I like new experiences, but I'm not always equipped for that. So my natural instinct is check it out, run, then have this look, even at my older age, because I'm 43 now, I would still look like a naughty person because I'm like, okay, I'm not equipped for this, regroup. So it's that feeling that I'm even having right now where I'm like, oh, I just logged in. I don't look right. Um, I'm not sure what I'm gonna say. You guys sound very cool. I'm looking at you, you're like very cool, you know? I like that, but it doesn't mean I can do it. I just think like, wow, cool. So I'm gonna log off, and I think that's the best I can share right now because I think my face is already just feeling like, wow. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think it's beautiful to do this way because we get to know the inside person, don't we? Instead of talking about business, because especially with women, I think that we're really good at expressing ourselves, but sometimes we hide away. Not necessarily here, but women in general
Yeah.
hide away.
It's true. Sorry to interrupt. It's true. There is that thing. We want the experience, but sometimes it's like, ooh, okay, let me just proper myself type of thing, whether it's an experience or what. And that's the feeling right now. But I'm glad I logged in. So yeah.
Well, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that because one of the things that I challenge, my legacy that I want in the world is a joint custody world where women are not fighting for anything. We're being so magnificent that everything comes together. But we know there are issues in the world between men and women, between all sorts of issues in the world. And my passion is how do we understand men for sure, but how do we understand each other? And that's why I'm passionate about all these different traits that we bring together. And we might all not be as at taking risks as maybe River is, or as creative as Connie is, or as an amazing entertainment as Linda is. We've all got these wonderful traits. And what I find is that when we go into this level of heart-centered ownership of our core traits, we can remember those more easily about each other. I did this recently with a group of 14-year-old girls here in a school in Las Vegas. And I just asked them, what do you love doing best? And it was something they never thought about. One girl liked singing, one liked baking cookies, one liked running, but they'd never discussed that in a class setting. So they were not able to remember what everybody did. But when you said something from the heart, they could remember everybody's trait. So when they started doing projects, they were more likely to be able to tap into the magnificence of each girl. So one of the things I explore is how do we change the awareness education of the world? If we said, the core right of every human being is to think for themselves, we know we have an education system which doesn't let us think for ourselves, and that's where we're not ontological. River.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I was at an event last March that was about 90% men. And the women had formed their own group to have their own voice. And I remember after this 4-day event, listening to the two women who had formed this group. And they were saying, when they were on, the men were on the stage and they would bring up people and they'd have as many as 10 people talking about these great things they've done. And these women were going, we need to demand that we have women on the stage and we deserve to be up there. And I just kind of stopped and listened and I said, here's my thought on what you're saying, is that if you want to be up there, you have to create value in order to get recognized. And it's not that every 1 out of 10 people must be a woman. You must deserve to be up there and you need to create value. And they said, oh, that's not it at all. We need to create a bridge to the men so that they make sure that we're up there. And, I walked away really discouraged because we don't deserve a place. We earn a place. Now, it may be
Yes.
true. It may be true that we have to do more than men to add that value and to be recognized. That might be true. And I say, so what? Because we can do it. We have it. And
Yes.
along with what you're talking about, people's values, the things that they do really well,
Yes.
it's because you stay in your zone of genius and you do what you do really well. And then from there you add value, and then from there you get recognized, and it all goes together.
I totally agree, River, and that's totally my raison d'etre for being in the world that I see ahead. And I think it's one of the words that came up for me from a very wise woman I was talking to in South Africa was women need to be able to be competent, so competency rather than aggressiveness. And I feel that you're absolutely right, that we need to have a different strategy to be valued. So this is what I was just doing with you is the start of what I call the value cycle. If we understand ourselves absolutely authentically, and we know we're different here on the call. So, some of us, I'm sure all of us will be compassionate, but it's Nima I would call in because I know how amazing she is in caring for her communities. If I was, looking for a risk taker, I come to you, River. We start going towards our best places. And this lady in South Africa said, I asked her, she was at the UN, and I said, why have we not got equality? And she said, it's because women don't understand their own competency. And once we do, and we can establish our value, then we create our own stages, but they're not all women's stages either, they're mixed. So though this is a women's online networking, it's very much about creating a new strategy. And what I've been studying in terms of authentic harmony is how, I said my words are about connecting ideas and concepts. So I connected the idea of actually, how do we understand different types of women, different types of men, and how do we talk to each other? But also, how do we create a new blueprint that is different and that we can step onto? 3 years ago, I had a hiatus in my life. My husband was in hospital with COVID for 17 days. So I had to stop working, getting in better, when I came out of that, I was looking at the work I was doing and I thought, what is the key message? This was 2022. So I said, goodbye equality, hello harmony. And it was as simple as that, because the word equality does not resonate well with men. And we've been fighting for it so long, it's now become an aggressive tactic. Whereas I think if we look at harmony, we can be risk-taking in harmony as well. We can take opportunities. We can do all the things that we've been talking about, but it's a different energy. And as we all know, everything is about energy. So I'm going to invite you to put your business details in the chat as well, so that we can actually share who we are. I put my stuff in there, but it's very important that as even though we're a small group of women here, I want to ask you how, if one tactic is to be more competent, how do we connect the dots across the world? Because there are a huge number of women's networks. I belong to something called the G100, which is a massive women's network across the world. But it's still trying to, overall, it's still trying to change the policies and regulations about gender equality. Whereas I feel strongly that we need to be more creative about it and advance different conversations in the world, exactly as you said, River. It's like, how can we get to those stages where we really make a statement about being joint custodians of the world? You know, half the world are female, half the world's male, but of the half of the world that's women, not all women are entrepreneurs or in business. And so those of us who are in business and are entrepreneurs and understand the value of our life experiences, we want to know how we can share these key messages. So for me, the first stage is valuing yourself. The next stage is valuing relationships. And the third stage is valuing the business or whatever it is we're in. And that is a cycle of intention, which starts with each of us. Now, each of us on the call has got a different energy. So even here, we've got risk-taking and creativity and entertaining and travel and adventure and compassion. And we've got curiosity and conversations. How do we bring this together? I have some ideas, but I'd love to open it up to the floor and see how we could represent a key message for Global Chamber for Women on the Women Leaders. We're Women Leaders on online group. Erica.
It begins in my opinion, it begins very basically. I have all daughters, and in hearing the conversations that these girls, that they've had with their friends in the car at our house over time, I believe that a lot of what we can do to improve things starts internally. Internally in terms of boosting them, in terms of the word choices that they use, in terms of mindset. And I think us as confident women leaders have have a responsibility to help change the conversations, because I think a lot of things are passed down and then these girls are like, well, I'm just this way because it's how I've grown up or it's what I've heard. And there is the opportunity to stop the cycle and to refocus your conversations and your thought patterns and these things and gain confidence. So it starts with confidence, which comes from all of those things that I just said. Seeing a vision forward and looking at the things that bind us, not what separate us. They look at, we don't have to talk about differences and, any differences, whatever they are, not focus on those, but be creative and look for ways that we can bind things together. And I wasn't always good at that, but being that I work a lot with men in my business, it's like River was was referencing. It's earning respect. And I have their respect. I conduct myself a certain way. I'm confident in what I say, but there's a collaborative conversation that happens. It's not like, well, I'm a woman and you need to listen to me because you don't normally listen to me. I don't come at it from that standpoint. It's like, what binds us together? How can we collaborate? And I think helping younger generations look at things from that viewpoint and have healthy thought processes and conversations and empowering in a gentle way is a good
Yeah.
way forward.
Excellent. And I would agree. I put a few notes from what you were saying in the chat, but I believe intergenerational wisdom sharing is going to be really important, and also how we listen to different, how do we listen to differences? I'm just going to come to you in a minute, River. I wanted to read something somebody wrote to me, and she said, listening to oneself is one of the most difficult exercises in a world where we are quickly influenced and distracted by superficial things. And I thought, most of the younger generation learn everything through here. How do we share our wisdom? River, what do you think?
Well, I want to piggyback on what was just said. I really liked the word confidence, and then the fact that collaboration is a huge part of this. And I think one of the things that we set forth is collaboration, and it begins with this thought: what's in it for them?
Yes.
And what that leads to is what value can we add for the other person? That's what goes around comes around kind of a thing. And it has to start with, how can I add value to someone else? What collaboration could we do here? And that has to do with connecting with women. It also has to do with connecting with men. You want to get into the men's circle? What can you add? When you think about that, what collaboration could you create in order to make that happen and get that foot in the door? And collaboration is a big part of that.
Absolutely. And that's where I've really studied the one of the key things is the words that we use. I mean, there's an interesting word that women often use in Maypop is about nurturing compassion, healing, kindness. Some of these words are words that men don't use as easily. So I studied, men don't use the word nurturing, but we nurture because that's our nature. So it's about how do we combine these energies? It's definitely about adding value. Your thoughts, Connie and Linda and Martha Pillow. And
Well,
Nima, you're here. Connie.
I guess we'll start with you. Thank you. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I think it's all about, again, confidence. I like, River said not to piggyback, but confidence is definitely key. And it's also about communication and setting expectations. Living rather in the Middle East for a long time, the challenge that a lot of us women face out here as business owners is almost like trying to, I don't know how to put this in the right context, but it's not like convince men, but it's kind of, if we have a man or a male that's owning like the same kind of business as I am, for example, and maybe we're in a rat race to win a new contract, Middle Eastern culture is more inclined to work with other men than other women. It's just something that goes back with them for many generations. It's a cultural thing. It's nothing personal or offensive, but it's a male dominated society over here. So for us being business owners as women out here, it's even more challenging because it's kind of, in this day and age, how do we convince our male counterparts to see that, okay, we're just as capable or might even be more capable than delivering a service and giving the right expectations. And as River said, it's how we can give value to them as, for them as a business owner or as a person, individual or entity, what have you. But it's bypassing that obstacle, I think, the culture aspect out here. So I always think of three things rather. It's confidence, it's communication, and expectations. Like these three things, I think, are the 3 points that really have to be conveyed in any conversation, whether it's a one-on-one, online, in person, or preliminary discussions, is always have like an open door and let people know what they're getting into and what you can do to better your services. Because again, as I repeat, I think the challenges is males like tend to work with more males out here, at least. I mean, I haven't lived in the West for a long time. I know obviously the Western mentality compared to the Middle Eastern, but I think it's one of those things. I mean, one of my very close American friends that lives in Dubai, she is like a spiritual healer, and she always says the feminine, the feminine, it's the feminists that are struggling or something. She always says that like the feminine's not aligning, Mercury and the universe don't align. She says it all in a very spiritual context. I can't reiterate what she says, but she's like, we're always fighting. The feminine are always fighting to win the battle over the man, and the man will always win. And she's very like, you know, feminist in other words. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
and that's where my fighter gene comes in. And I'm like, we will prevail. We're going to bypass this, you know? So it's not easy, but I think the one thing I realize with men is once they're on board, and one thing about me is I like things that are people who are matter of fact. So they don't waste time. It's like, once you're working with them, they kind of know what they want. They're like, this is what I want. ABC, can you deliver it to me? Everything is kind of like 1, 2, 3. It's like clockwork, and then it's done. But it's getting to that stage where you actually have that opportunity to work with them. It's a challenge sometimes.
Well, that's right, and I studied this in depth with my archetypes. So I have 4 archetypes. So you just know I've got the ruler and the philosopher, the different types of men. That man who's totally in control is the ruler, and the philosopher
Okay.
is the one who thinks and asks why.
Yeah.
And the same with women. The magician is the woman in her head who's always got ideas, and the sovereign is one who's very caring and taking notice of the children and the castle. So that's very brief. But one of the things I want to say is that I agree that, you know, there are what I call wise men, but rulers and philosophers who really understand that it's okay to be themselves and for women to be who they are. We don't need a battle. Florence Scovel-Shinn said
Yeah.
this many years ago, you know, life is not a battle, it's a game. And we've been playing the wrong game, in my view, for the last 100 years, and now it's a new game. But somebody said to me yesterday, it was women don't want men who control them. They want men who are in control of themselves. You know, that we want confident men. We don't want wimps. And I think there are a lot of men who just don't know how to handle women, but that's another thing. So maybe
That's a whole other topic. As you say, the lumberjack. I call them, I was like, the women always seek the lumberjack, you know, the rugged guy. He can control himself. He has his life going for him. But no, absolutely. I know what you mean.
yes.
And
I'd like to just give you a little bit of information. I'm part of something called Positive Masculinity, which is actually a movement by 6 African presidents, all men from DRC, Congo, South Africa, Senegal, Togo, etc. And they are looking at positive masculinity as a way of eliminating violence against women and girls. So it's interesting because it's a male initiative to solve something that's actually been created by men. But anyway, they're moving slowly
great,
towards
though.
something.
I was going to say that's a step in the right direction. Absolutely. You know,
definitely a step in the right direction. And
Yeah.
I know the women behind the scene. And I had a conversation with one of the main women, and I said, do they let the women on the stage, with reference to what River said? And she said, well, they do occasionally, but you've got to remember it's a man's prerogative, this proposal. So slowly. And I said to her, why don't you do things different? And she said, in our culture, it's just a big one to get them to the stage to talk about this. So you're right, it's step by step, even if we want to speed it up. But Linda, I can see you want to edging to say something here.
No, actually, I don't.
Okay.
Because these ladies have been so smart with what they're saying. And, you know, what I've been thinking about, and a lot of this has been said, but in a different way. I think that what happens that I've seen is that both sides become combative just for the point, just to be in control. Okay. And it works both ways. You know, women are let's call it combative, because they want to prove themselves that way instead of proving themselves skills wise. Men are combative because they've always been that way. I shouldn't say that, not always been that way, but many of them have. That's been kind of like their nature because that's how they were brought up. And I think we're going to be ready for a whole new crop of men, boys going forward. Yeah. And then just River, 1 second. You know, it's kind of that whole assertive aggressive. you know, like it was okay for men to be aggressive, but not for women. They had to be assertive. And that's
Yeah.
the hard and the soft way of communicating. I think that's breaking down, especially the aggressive side. It's starting to blend. It's not quite the same thing. And again, it's kind of like a generational thing. I think as they're being brought up, they may not know how to count, tell time without their watch, but communication wise, I think that it's getting better. Yeah, River, I'm sorry. Where are you? Oh, there
Yeah.
you are. Go ahead.
I wasn't trying to be obnoxious. I was trying to get my hand to come up and it wouldn't look at it. Two prevailing thoughts. I have this book and it's a title that sounds like What Men Know About Women. When you open it up, it's 110 pages of blank pages. And it's bound and you can actually buy it. It's hilarious. And I've given it to all my sisters. But having said that, there is a little graphic I keep right by my computer, and it says, "Let them underestimate you." And that means to me two things. One, we need to quit being so loud about it and insisting on things and being aggressive about it. Quietly go and just kill them with, for example, the best platform that's ever been created for text to video, or whatever you're doing, and you quietly you go about quietly and carry a big stick, and when you come out with your product and it exceeds anything that they ever thought you could do, now you have your attention, and that's fine. It's okay if we have to do it that way, and that's how we get their attention. But we just quietly go and we just throw out the best product we can or the best service, and that speaks for us. We don't need to say a thing.
I agree. So I'm going to go to Nima. Nima, you've got your hand up.
Yes, so thank you. And I just want to add some few points. And thank you, Connie, for bringing up the different culture, you know,
I think this,
from the world that I come from, and since I was, and don't say otherwise. And when we have this traditional, when you get married, we have this traditional, we call them kitchen party, but they tell you how to handle a man. And it's always about what to do to a man, and it's not what a man should do to you. And also, I agree in the points of where women, we need to show more of our skills. And this has helped me throughout my career at work, that to, you know, to reduce bias. They always come, you can sit in a room of men and you're leading, and they will skip you, even in small things like coffee. They might serve all the men and just leave you alone there. But when you have, how I've always been able to combat this is when they come to me, because I know I have something that they will always come to me in the office, and they will not skip me in that thing. And I will say, "Oh, but you were not so good to me that at the time. Maybe you buy me a candy and I'll be able to help you." Or, you know, showing that I am also important, and also jotting down the things that I've always been doing and the things that I have brought in the company. But not only that, right now there's a lot of organizations that are helping men now to there are also men who are undergoing domestic violence. It might be funny, but they come out, and there are a lot of them. So there's so many ways to look at these things, but to jot down in the, how can we change our society? We need men role models. We need men as allies in our side. For example, when we talk about land in Africa, a woman is not given a land so if we have men as allies, we're going to be able to do most things. But if we also have men as role models from the family level to up to the policy making, to the policy making, we are going to be able to give our generations things that can change our perspectives and how we see men and women working as equal, or how we are able to work together. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key things is listening to the largest demographic in the world, which is 18 to 30. These are the future employers. These are the future employees. These are young adults coming out of school who sometimes get lost because there's the old world is changing. They're not going to go to university. They're not going to get jobs, etc. And that's what yes. And Erica's noted that the president of Tanzania is a lady. The prime minister of Iceland is brilliant. You know, there are some good role models for women, but we do need advocates who are men, and we need these conversations. So one of my goals is really creating what I call magical conversations. So let me just explain, and I hope you're all going to buy my book. I know Erica's read it. I think have you read it yet, Erica? But my goal is a magical conversation is one without judgment, without anger, and without coercion, i.e. not trying to get into action before we're ready. And just as an example, one of my colleagues in South Africa ran a conversation like this with 3 top corporate men and 3 top corporate women with an audience listening, and they set those rules. And it was a session so they could share how women saw this organization, what they really needed. At the end of the whole thing, which was very successful, so a short story this, the top man said to her, "I've never heard this stuff before. I didn't realize this. Nobody told me this is how women saw the world, and I wasn't in a space where I could hear it. This is much easier than writing policy." Now, that's one example of changing the mindset of a lead man in a corporate environment who might now do things differently. So it's slow growth, but I do believe there's the possibility out there of finding those good stories. And I believe the Global Chamber is going to be one of those places. So this is why I've joined, because I see it as a very international business platform, but it has a wonderful way of building relationships. So, Matapelo, do you have a view you would like to share?
I think I thought of different things as you guys were talking. It's like you guys were spot on. So all I could do was enjoy listening because you were like little one. Various things like when you mentioned that it's about creating value, it's not about being deserving. And it's true. Some of the things that I quickly learned was that I think it's we need to have a mindset shift from I need to prove it to this person that so and so, that we just be yourself, walk confidently in the room, own the space, just be you, be good at what you do, focus on that, and the rest follows. Because that's what I know that it's something I also need to keep working on as a woman. But that's what I saw as a win, even when I observe other women, that I admire certain things. Just do what you do. And the very people that, because I think our focus is based on past experiences, we're like, okay, this man needs to recognize this man is, if we can just change our mind from focusing on their reaction and on what they need to do, and just own your space, do what you do and excel in it, that person is gonna follow suit. I think that's what we need to do, even myself as I'm saying it. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank
Quickly,
you.
just
Thank you.
and also just to add on the whole culture awareness thing, because yes, I think that also hinders us sometimes, because you're like, what is the appropriate way? What should I? So it's just having the culture understanding. But at the end of the day, we need to give ourselves some credits that we're doing the best. We actually put in more effort trying to accommodate the other. Men are just straightforward, they just do what they do. And we are the ones who are always cautious because that's how we grew up. But if we can just, yes, have the respect for the next person, but just own your space, the person will respect you and value you and credit you for that. We will be recognized for what we put to the table. if we just walk boldly like they do. So yeah.
Absolutely, that's beautiful wisdom. I do perceive in the world that although there's a lot of crazy stuff coming in the world, there is a lot of advances. There were a lot more groups that are really listening. There are a lot more men who are really listening. I follow a lot of different lead actions, and I think women are coming forward. I study entrepreneurs a lot with my study of entrepreneurology, and I see that women in particular, even if they're building a small business, they want to set up a non-for-profit because they want to save the world. So I was working in Malaysia for 4 years, and every woman who had a small business and didn't have any money was going to set up a foundation so that women ahead would not be having to go through the life they had led. So we're at a change point in the world, I think, in terms of moving forward. One of the things that I am very keen on is this idea of value creation. So I study that a lot. So remember, it's me, it's you and me, it's we. When we get to the collaboration, the cooperation, all of that stuff, the other word in there is accountability. So I'm wondering how we could be accountable to each other now through the Women Leaders WhatsApp. And if we post out this recording, is to invite other people on the Women Leader WhatsApp group to also become accountable. And in that is about sharing good stories. Because if we don't have the stories out there, then we don't know what's been happening. So if you know of any good stories yourself, or you hear them in your particular part of the world, and by that I mean even companies who are treating people well, have a good female-male balance, do the right things, and become both sustainable and growth, as well as looking after people. Those are the stories we need more out there. If you think about an equivalent to Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Sir Richard Branson, there are very few women who I could quote who actually have made a huge difference in the world by being that kind of entrepreneur. So if you know of any in your part of the world, I'd love to share those kind of stories. And the other thing is, I want to ask you whether any of you have read this book, Invisible Women. This is, I didn't write this. This is written by a lady called Caroline Credo Perez, but it is it's a big book to read. It's not easy, but it's called A Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. And I'm just fascinated by the data in there because there are lots of systems in the world that have marginalized women just by the way they've been designed. So I'll give you an example. Transport systems have very often been designed for men to go to work, not for women to go to work with a pram and a baby and loads of shopping. So there are more accidents for women because the transport system is designed for men. So they end up at ER, cost to the country, and also, cost to their health. So there's some very interesting things in there about how we could change the systems as well as the narrative. But I'm aware that it's come to the top of the hour. Have you all put your details in the chat so we can keep in touch with each other? I'm actually delighted to get to know you all. I've never hosted this event before, and I'd like us to keep in touch, and definitely would like to keep in touch with each one of you and see what kind of collaboration and forward narratives we can actually explore. Would that be okay with everybody?
Yes, of course.
I think this was amazing. Lovely
Yeah, it's
to
very
connect with
inspirational.
everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Thank
there's so
you.
much we
Nice
can do
day.
together.
Yeah, I'm glad I logged in. I think I got distracted when you guys were raising your points. I was busy looking so that I don't miss anybody's information, quickly sending links and writing their noting down their addresses. So I'll definitely get your book as well. I'm glad I made it into, like, I'm glad I was curious enough to check it out, and it was valuable conversation that you guys had. I wasn't aware of your book. Now I'm aware of it, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And the timing was actually perfect for me, because even as I was writing my blog, I was questioning my own authenticity. So
Oh.
now I'm gonna go read and stop questioning myself. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Can anybody tell me where you can save the chat?
I copy
you-
paste it into a Word document. It's funny, but it works.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know otherwise.
Wait.
I think maybe the 3 dots, if you click on, yeah, you click on those 3 little dots on the top of the chat box, it says save chat. I don't know what
Oh,
it
yes,
is.
thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it does.
They-
Very
they-
easy.
They moved it. They moved.
There we go.
I'm,
Oh,
I'm
yep,
really
there it
delighted
is.
to meet you all, and let's keep in touch and keep this conversation going. And I'll definitely be in touch with all of you.
Absolutely. Thanks for hosting, and nice to meet everybody.
Nice to meet you
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a good day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Same to you
Bye-bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.